Narayana. A joyous new year to all. If you think carefully about New Year's, nothing actually changes between December 31st and January 1st. They're the same type of day. In fact, January 1st often is worse because you're more tired. Whatever you did on the 31st may be affecting you. January 1st is a new year only if you are new. There can only be a new year if there's a new you. If you don't change, if the content doesn't change, the context is impotent. It's irrelevant. But if you change, if the content changes, the way you think, one's personality, and on and on and on, then the context is ever new. It's ever fresh. The word we use in Vedanta is shashvataha. Shashvataha means that which is ever fresh. And Brahman is known as shashvataha because that which is infinite, that which is joyous, how can that ever become old? So this whole idea of a new year, I hope we can make this more meaningful. And this is what we're trying to do because we are focusing on the greatest utility. Now you think of everything that is utility oriented for you. A cell phone, a car, an insurance policy, whatever helps us, whatever it provides for us. But why do you have all of that? Why do you have the cell phone and car and insurance policy? The reason for that is we're trying to find that which is everlasting, that which is joyous. So focusing on the most significant utility, we take up Vedanta and Ramayana. And thinking about this even more deeply, you and I, we are joy, but we've forgotten that, and so we've externalized that in the form of Lord Rama. We've externalized that further in Lord Rama's journey, when in actuality there is only you. There is only oneness. Today is a most beautiful day to recommence our study of Lord Rama's journey, of studying Lord Rama, of studying ourselves, because today is Vaikunta Ekadashi. Now I'll explain to you what some of these words mean. What does Dasha mean? Like Dasharata? It means 10. Ekadashi means 11. Now if I were to ask you, what part of you has 11 components? We will think that we have 5 organs of perception. We have 5 organs of response. There's 10, correct? And who's the boss of all of this input and output? The mind. Ekadashi is when all 11 facets of who you are, input, output, and the controller of all of this is upasana. Upa means near. Asana means sitting, living. On all Ekadashi days, all of your senses should be living towards the higher. And ideally, this should be every day. But if it's not every day, at least on Ekadashi days. So how does this look? If you don't need to eat a certain food, then don't eat it. If you don't need to eat at all, then don't eat. If you don't need to watch whatever videos, then don't watch them. And on and on and on. There should be the highest purpose on these days. Today's Ekadashi is more special because today what is shared is where Bhagavan Vishnu lives in Vaikunta. The gates to Vaikunta are open today. And so even if you don't deserve to be in Vaikunta, the gates are open, just rush in. So that's what we're here to earn our place in Vaikunta, but today is so special that even if we haven't earned that, we have this opportunity. And making this more subjective, kuntita means blunt. It means limit. And when you put that prefix, that vi, it's without bluntness. In other words, there's clarity. Without limit is that which is infinite. So Vaikunta, though we can look at it as a place outside, with a gate and a name and a form, Vaikunta is where our motherland is. This is our home. We've just exiled ourselves from that. Hence, we're studying the ayana, the path back. Everyone's with me? There's too much content. Just on this one subject, I can spend an hour speaking on this, so we're going to move though. Mother Parvati is asking Bhagavan Shiva, what is the purpose of Bhagavan Rama's avatar? Why did that which has no form and no name take on a form and name? And Bhagavan Shiva's answering her. And what he's shared so far is the narration of Jaya and Vijaya, who were cursed by the Sanat Kumaras to become demons. And Bhagavan Vishnu, he came as an incarnation in various forms to protect Jaya and Vijaya in their incarnations. So we had explored that. There's one reason. Another reason was when Naradaji was becoming arrogant about his self-control. You know, some of us are like that too. We like to talk a lot about our sadhanas. We like to talk about how much we're growing and this and that. And Bhagavan, our Sadguru, loves us so much that will give us a medicine, as hard as it is for us, helps us to grow. Bhagavan Vishnu makes Narada look like a monkey. And this infuriates Narada, so he curses Bhagavan Vishnu that you will be helped by monkeys. And the way you didn't let me marry the girl that I wanted to, your wife too will be separated from you. So, and this all happened, correct? So there's another reason for Bhagavan taking incarnation. And you'll see in both cases, it wasn't negative, it was quite positive. Jaya and Vijaya are Bhagavan's servants. Narada is his sevaka. We tend to interpret Bhagavan as fear instilling, punishing. For those who participate in the Satyanarayana Puja, that's a common sentiment. There's always fear associated with that. When in actuality, it's protection. Jaya, Vijaya, Narada. Bhagavan is protecting all of them. And you'll see throughout the rest of the avatars we study, the purposes of Bhagavan's avatar, there is always the flow of kshantihi. Kshantihi means forgiveness. When you interact with people, specifically those people who are dependent on you, family, friends, co-workers, colleagues in our schools, etc., kshantihi, or forgiveness, allows those interactions to be balanced, to be joyous. But if kshantihi is removed, if we stop forgiving, if you take away the kshantihi, what else goes with it? shantihi, or peace. And Bhagavan is always forgiving the mistakes of his devotees. So for us too, what we're to practice here is we have to forgive ourselves. We make mistakes. On December 31st or January 1st, I was with my cousins, and each person had to share a resolution of theirs for the upcoming year. And so when it came to me, I said that in January of 2016, I tried to be vegan. And I was strong for a few months, but then I became weaker and weaker and weaker. And so now I'm going to try again to be a much more disciplined vegan. And one may think, yeah, you're weak. Well, why did you become weak in the first place? But I did, and it's not a justification, but it happened. And me not forgiving myself, then why even try? But if I forgive myself, then I can try again, and I can try again. And it's not a justification. You need that to keep moving. And if you can do it with yourself, then you can start doing it with others also. So we see a lot of forgiveness that is highlighted in our scriptures. And I tell you, a catalyst to becoming a more forgiving person is the word Bhagavata. I'm going to open this word up for you. Bha means joy. Bha means light. Ga means to go. Va means vara, the best. And ta means tarini. Tarini means the methodology, the means. So Bhagavata really means the best means to go to joy. And all of Bhagavatam has a singular purpose, and that is to inspire us to repeat the Lord's name more, to think about the Lord's virtues more. And really, if you do this, you're finding yourself. That's the Vedanta part. Bhagavatam, Ramayana, these are highly philosophical texts. But you have to apply yourself for that to become real. We go to another reason for why Bhagwan Rama took incarnation. Mother Parvati wants to know, and Bhagwan Shiva is explaining to her why Bhagwan Rama took incarnation. I'm on page 108. I'm on the Doha. So I'm going to chant the first and second line of the Doha in section 149. Okay, page 108, the Doha for section 149. Dani Shiromani Kripanidhi Nata Kahau Shatibai Chahau Tumahi Samana Sutta Prabhusana Kavana Durau. And what is shared here, Manu is asking Bhagwan Narayana to give him the boon of having Bhagwan Narayana as his son. Okay, that's the literal meaning of this, but now I'll give you some history to all of this. In Christianity, I believe the first beings, other than Bhagwan, was Adam and Eve. Is this correct? I think so. So in Sanatana Dharma, the first beings, their names are Manu and Shatarupa. The word Manu comes from man. All of our Hindi speakers, what does man mean? Mind. Manyate, to think. A human is one who thinks, and if you don't think, then you can't call yourself a human. That's where the word man comes from, Manu. So Manu is the son of Lord Brahma, as in the creator Lord Brahma. Shatarupa is also a child of Lord Brahma. But what's interesting is that Lord Brahma had Manu and Shatarupa from himself. It's not like what we think of how children are now born. It was simply, they were manifested from his thoughts. They became the first beings. And from these two beings, all of the human race came to be. Manu and Shatarupa were very special beings who lived a life of study and discipline and generosity. They're the ideal role models for all people. Manu and Shatarupa, as they finished their worldly responsibilities, they wanted to see Bhagwan with their own eyes, with their physical eyes. The way that my eyes can see a refrigerator or the sun or a book, they wanted to see the highest with those same eyes. And so they started living simply. And what does this mean? They only lived on fruits and vegetables, and they always use the word roots. Roots must mean like figs and nuts and so on and so forth. So they live very simply. Okay, it's almost like Ekadashi. They're using their senses in a very simple way. And then they became more focused. They became more concentrated. And so for 6,000 years, they only lived on water. No more fruits or vegetables or roots. No more solids. They only took up water for 6,000 years. Imagine I said that for 60 minutes just to take up water, or 6 hours. I should make that your raw, shouldn't it? 1 week, only water. Next week when Bhagwan Rama's born, nobody will be there. 6,000 years with just water, and that there was not enough focus and not enough concentration, so they gave up water. For 7,000 years, they lived on just air. And that wasn't focused enough for them. They gave up air also, and for 10,000 years, they only depended on the thought of Bhagwan. And it is only then that Bhagwan Narayana manifested for them. 10,000 years of just chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The only purpose is the higher. The only joy is myself. And Bhagwan Narayana manifested before them. And Bhagwan asked both Manu and Shatarupa, what do you want? You called me, and the word here is Dani Shiromani. You are the best in giving. Bhagwan is the best in giving. Whatever you want, Bhagwan gives. Bhagwan should actually be more careful with what he gives, shouldn't he? He sometimes gives too much, and that becomes destructive, but there's a master plan behind that. So, Bhagwan asks both of them, and they both say, who are we to ask you? You are in our hearts. You know what we're thinking even before we think it. So why would you even ask this, Bhagwan? And you know what Bhagwan says? He says, you called me in this physical way, so now I'm asking you in a physical way also. He's using the same currency that they're using. And so Manu asks first, he says, Bhagwan, I really want to have a son like you. The father says this, Manu, I want to have a son like you. And Bhagwan says, Tathastu, so will it be. Then he asks Shatarupa, his wife, what do you want? And she doesn't say, I want a son like you. She's a very smart woman. She said, he already asked for it, so I'm going to get that. I'm going to get that anyways, correct? So she says, she doesn't ask for, I want a daughter like you, or I want another child like you. She says, I want joy like yours. Awesome. What a prayer. I want the same joy you experience, Bhagwan. I want that joy. That's such amazing prayer. And then Manu comes back and says, I want to actually refine what I asked of you. And then Manu says, see, when you become my son, I don't want to know that you're God. That won't be any fun. I want you to be my son, and I want to only know that you're my son. So I want to be attached to you, and I want to play with you and get mad at you, and I want to depend on you. So like all of us, see? He had to pray for it. We're like that anyways with our family members. So these are the prayers that are asked by Manu and Shatarupa. And so who does Manu become? Raja Dashrata. And who does Shatarupa become? Kaushalya. And in all of Ramayana, when Bhagwan Rama left Ayodhya, the one person who gave up his life was Raja Dashrata. And this was all stated so much before this actually happened. And you saw with Kaushalya, she was so objective with Lord Rama. You saw with her sister-in-law Sumitra, her sister-in-law told Lakshmana, she told him that if you stay here, you'll be leaving Ayodhya. You need to go with Lord Rama. She said, I'm not your mother anymore. Mother Sita is your mother. That's the greatness of these beings and the greatness of God also. So now I'm going to make this more subjective for all of us. Okay, so there's some of the narration. Another reason why this avatar took place. Now, what does it mean for us? Okay. I'd mentioned that Manu and Shatarupa were half and half of Lord Brahma. Okay, so really they're embodiments of Lord Brahma. Now, where did Lord Brahma come from? Lord Brahma has come from the navel of Bhagwan Vishnu. Where does Bhagwan Vishnu come from? Nowhere. He is existence. So now I want you to think about you. Who did you come from? I'll think about myself. I came from Acharya Vijay and Acharya Madhu. Where did they come from? My 4 grandparents. Where did they come from? And you just keep on going like that. And you will keep going like that till you reach your original parent. And your original parent is actually not even outside of you. Your original parent is you. Sat. That existence. That's what your nature is. That's what your potential is. If you think that your parents are weak, you're always going to think you are weak. But if you think your parents are divine, then you begin to exemplify the same. So we have to remember who our original parents are. Another meaning here is, simple living is a very subjective term, isn't it? So if I ask the people in Portland what simple living is, it will be very different than the people in Flint. And the people in Flint would be very different than the people in Fairfield. Why simple living is encouraged? Because if you live simply, the chances are that you're thinking in a high way. Simple living, high thinking. Swami Tej Ramayana always shares that. Simple living is a catalyst to high thinking. And that's what makes a human, is high thinking. Manyate, to think. And there's a really awesome quote I had shared a little while ago from an awesome person. And that was, we should work like a horse and live like a hermit. That's how we can be successful in life, is to work like a horse, like the horsepowers in our cars, and live like a hermit. Our cars really are like that. You know, they live outside. It's so cold. We barely give them anything. But they just keep working and working and working. And we saw that with Manu and Shatarupa. Just fruits and vegetables, then just water, then just air. And at no point did they let go of the purpose that is joy. They may have let go of everything else, but not the purpose that is joy. And the last point I want to highlight in this narration that's so awesome is when Manu had prayed to Bhagwan Narayana that I want a son like you, Bhagwan Narayana started thinking, okay, who is like me? And he thought about Narada. Is Narada like me? Is Prahlad like me? Is Dhruva like me? Who is like me? And who is like Bhagwan? Only Bhagwan. Bhagwan couldn't come up with anyone who's like him. So he had to come. What this means is joy, or ananda, is incomparable. You cannot trade in anything. You cannot trade in joy for anything. You will not. Will you give up your happiness for an iPhone? You may say yes, but finally you wouldn't. You wouldn't give up anything for joy, because joy is more precious than oxygen. if you think about why someone would commit suicide, it's because that joy is more important than that body being alive. Think deeply about that, okay? Please take that in the right context. So, Mother Parvati is asking Bhagwan Shiva, why did Bhagwan Rama manifest? And he shared to protect Jaya and Vijaya, to protect Narada, and now to protect, I'll use the word protect, Manu and Shatarupa. So protection. I meet a lot of our young adults, and it used to surprise me, it doesn't surprise me so much anymore, about how many of our young adults are struggling with anxiety, are struggling with depression. And I acknowledge that there is a biological component to that. But there's also a psychological and a sociological component. There's a family component and a society component also. A reason why many of our young adults, and all people who suffer from anxiety and depression, a reason for that is this idea of failure. And with failure comes fear. Not fear of failure, but fear of the sorrow that comes with failure. Please remember that. We do not fear public speaking. You know, imagine none of you were watching me right now and I was just speaking into my camera. I wouldn't be afraid, even with all of you watching. I'm really not that afraid. But my point is, we do not fear public speaking. We fear the sorrow that could come from public speaking. Judgment or comparison or whatever it is. We fear sorrow. So what I try to encourage with our young adults, but sometimes they're too intellectual. They're too jnana founded that they can't open their hearts to this idea. If our original parent, whom we call Bhagwan, is all pervading, and I'm ashamed to say if, but when I converse with them, I'd have to use the word if. If Bhagwan is all pervading, that means Bhagwan is looking at you. And if Bhagwan is looking at you, that also means Bhagwan is looking after you. Remember those two A's, at and after. Just like a parent is looking at an infant, that parent is going to look after that infant. But if that parent is not looking at that infant, they may not look after that infant. The all-pervading nature of our original parent should help us to let go of depression and anxiety and fear. We're being looked at. We're being looked after. Okay? So 3, we go to number 4. I hope I haven't missed any reasons of Bhagwan's incarnation. And if I did, no worries. We're only on Balakanda. We still have 6 more huge chapters to go through. I can just keep summarizing and summarizing and summarizing. Okay. I am now shifting to the 173rd section of Chopais. 173, that section. And I'm looking at the Doha, line 1 and 2 of the Doha, which puts me at page 122. Bole Bipra Sakopa Tabanahi Kachu Kina Vichara Jai Nisachara Hehu Nripa Mudha Sahita Parivara. And what this says literally is, the Brahmanas in their rage had cursed, "O foolish king, go and take birth as a demon, and not just you and your whole family." So that's how this scene starts, you know? You foolish king, go become a demon and let the rest of your family become that too. So, what is the history behind this? Bhagwan Shiva tells Mother Parvati, there was a great, great, great king whose name was Pratapa Bhanu. By a show of hands, how many of you have heard of this name before, Pratapa Bhanu? Wow, so this is completely new to all of you. So I can make up whatever names and history I want, and you'll still sign on week after week. Pratapa Bhanu was this wonderful king, and his brother was Arimardana. Pratapabhanu and Arimardana. Pratapabhanu was a king. Arimardana was his chief in the army. And their prime minister was Dharmaruchi. And you notice that we're using worldly political terms like prime minister, not president. Okay, because that's how the world operates, is with prime ministers and so on and so forth. I just have to share, clear out politics also through such forums. How else am I going to clear out such thoughts? So Pratapabhanu, Arimardana, and Dharmaruchi, and these three were the best. I'm going to share with you some time that for someone to be a leader in a kingdom, or even a leader in a family, or a community, or in a course, it doesn't matter. One of the first elements of being a leader is to provide security. If you are not providing security for your city, for your family, then you are not leading them. Another is prosperity. If you're not providing employment for your community, for your city, then you're not leading them. In our context is, if Chinmay Mission doesn't provide opportunities for people to study and serve, then we're not contributing to society. These three, the king, the chief, and the prime minister, they provided lots of security, lots of employment, everything they were supposed to do as householders, as kshatriyas. They did everything times 1,000. If you're supposed to do one donation, if you're supposed to give 1 hour of volunteering, they give 1,000. That's how great they were. Open-hearted. And unfortunately, one day Pratapabhanu went hunting. If you ever get a chance to study Bhagavatam, in Bhagavatam, what is distinctly shared is what leaders should not do. They should not hunt. They should not engage in, the word is womanizing, but I find that to be politically incorrect. So they shouldn't engage in flirting. I'll make it more general. They should not drink. They should not gamble. All of these are stated, but if you read what all kings do, what do? They do all of that to the maximum extent. So Pratapabhanu goes hunting. And he's chasing down this boar, but this boar is very clever, and this boar escapes Pratapabhanu. And now he's so far into the forest, he can't see, he's exhausted, he's so thirsty. And he comes up on this hermitage, this kutia. And in this kutia, he sees this person dressed in simple attire. And he is a great king, so he's very respectful, very loving to this hermit. And this hermit is quite pleased by Pratapabhanu, and he says, ask me whatever you want. Here we go again. What boon do you want? And what does Pratapabhanu say? He says, I want to be free of death. I don't want my body to get old. I don't want my body to get sick. I don't want to die. I want to be free of the limits of this body. And this hermit, and I have to tell you more about him, he says, Tathastu, so be it. But he says, I can stop this body from going through this, but I cannot stop a Brahmana's curse towards you. I cannot stop a Brahmana's negativity towards you. So if they wish for you to die or to be sick or get old, I cannot stop that. It's shared even Bhagwan cannot stop what intention a guru has in whatever direction. And so Pratapabhanu is thinking lots about this. Okay, you can't stop this, but tell me, how do I prevent Brahmanas from doing this to me? So this hermit says, when you go back to your kingdom, every day you should invite 100,000, 1 lakh Brahmanas to your home, and you should serve them. You should feed them, and you should gift to them. And Pratapabhanu says, yes, this is a solid plan. I'm going to go back to the kingdom, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to serve all of these brahmanas, and I will be the sovereign ruler of this entire globe. And Pratapabhanu goes to sleep. Now, who is this hermit? This hermit is actually not a hermit. This hermit is a ruler of a piece of land that Pratapabhanu had acquired. And this king was too embarrassed by the loss to Pratapabhanu that he dressed himself up as a hermit living in the forest. And he made friends with a demon called Kalaketu. Don't be concerned about all of these names. Okay, there's too many to keep track of. That Kalaketu was the boar that was slowly drawing in Pratapabhanu more and more and more into darkness. External darkness and internal darkness. Pratapabhanu's already the ruler. Why doesn't he want to allow age and sickness and death to come? See, that's a very worldly prayer. I want to live forever. You can't live forever. Why would you wish for that? So this fake king and this demon, and there's so many details, but they go back to that kingdom with Pratapabhanu, and this fake king becomes the chef for serving all of these brahmanas. So imagine 100,000 brahmanas are in this kingdom, and Pratapabhanu has all of his vessels and all of his family. They're all about to serve these brahmanas. But what this fake king did is he mixed the flesh. He killed some brahmanas and took their flesh and mixed it with all of the food that was going to be served. So it's cannibalism, I suppose. And these brahmanas are about to eat, and then this voice comes saying, do not eat this food. This Pratapabhanu, this king that's apparently serving you, he's mixed flesh in all of this food. And those brahmanas became livid because they're very disciplined in their input, in their intake. And that's where this curse came, that those brahmanas in their rage told Pratapabhanu that you're acting like a demon, may you become a demon, and not just you, but your whole family as well. And then as soon as the brahmanas shared that curse, another voice came and said, Brahmanas, you shared this curse without thinking. This Pratapabhanu's heart is pure. He had no intention of deceiving you. And now the repercussions have to happen. And those brahmanas felt so regretful at how they reacted. And so immediately they started pleading to Bhagwan, saying, we can't take back our curse. You know, that's what truth is. Truth is you say it and it happens. But Bhagwan, please come and help this family, you know, as they embody themselves as demons. And so in the next embodiment, this Pratapabhanu became Ravana. His brother Arimardana became Kumbhakarna. And who did Dharmaruchi become? Vibhishana. So these three, this micro family, became who we now understand as Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana. Okay, so let's look at this subjectively for a few more minutes. You see in both of today's narrations, there is this idea of I can give you a boon. I can fulfill your wish. What wish do you all have? What is it that you finally want? Joy. Who's the only one who asked for joy? Shatarupa, Kaushalya. Manu didn't ask for it. Pratapabhanu didn't ask for it. They wanted the world. In Manu's case, he wanted a son. In Pratapabhanu's case, he wanted the world. He wanted to be a ruler. And what Bhagwan is teaching in both of these cases is anything that comes into your life will go. If all of you read the rad I posted from Sri Ramana yesterday, Sri Ramana teaches, what comes, comes. What goes, goes. See what remains. Your nature does not come. Your nature does not go. Your nature is. And that's why Shatarupa, she was fully aware of that. And so she wanted to abide in that joy. She wanted to go deeper into herself. She didn't want to be more of an extrovert. She wanted to be more of an introvert. I connect that to Ekadashi again. So for all of us, Christmas just passed and now we have a whole year of celebrations ahead of us. We have Makara Sankranti, Mahashivratri, Holi, and people will ask you, what do you want? They will ask you on your birthday, on your graduation, what do you want? Be very careful for what you wish for. Because even if you have this casual thought, you don't know what kind of habit will be developed from that. I had read in Autobiography of a Yogi that Paramahansa Yogananda shares, every desire that you have has to be fulfilled. So if you don't fulfill it in this lifetime, there'll be another one, and another one, and another one. So if you keep on desiring casually, I keep dreaming about winning the lottery, and then I'm going to buy Teslas for all my family, and we're going to rent a cruise ship, and we're going to go to Antarctica and all of that. You may think it's just a fantasy, it's just a fancy, but you may have to take another embodiment to win that lottery. And who knows if Tesla will even be invented when you're when you're reborn. You may have to wait so many lifetimes for Tesla to come back. And on and on and on. When Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana are born again, they're born in the family of a great sage named Pulastya. And we see that also, with families who have really solid grandparents, solid parents, and then that weakening takes place. Born into this great lineage, but they forgot that. And so they had these vicious tendencies. And in their viciousness, they were being extrovert, so they started doing tapa again. Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana all started remembering God, not for joy, but for stuff. So Lord Brahma came and told Ravana, what do you want? What does Ravana say? I only want to die at the hands of monkeys and men. Who thinks of such prayers? Why was he thinking about that when he said that? Kumbhakarna was about to say, I want to be Indra. Indra is not just the king of the world, the king of the gods, but Lord Brahma, see, he has 4 hands. 2 are his and 2 are his wives. His wife says in Mother Saraswati, he immediately prays to Mother Saraswati that if this Kumbhakarna is awake for more than a few days, there won't be any food in this multiverse. Everyone's going to suffer. So he prays to Mother Saraswati, who's the goddess of speech, go sit on his tongue. So when he's about to say, may I become Indra, he couldn't pronounce the I, and what came out was Nidra. And so he became the king of sleep. And so for 6 months he sleeps, and then he eats, and then he goes back to sleep for 6 more months. Sounds like some of us, correct? See the reality in what's being taught. And then so much happens after that, Mandodari is made the wife of Ravana, and this earth just starts suffering. And Mother Earth, she takes the form of this cow, and I'll explain this more next week, but she says, the weight of the mountains and the oceans are not as great as the weight of vicious people like Ravana and Kumbhakarna. And now subjectively for you and I, isn't it that when you're jealous of someone that you just can't feel light? Isn't it that when you're arrogant with someone, you've been mean with someone, that you just can't let it go? You are Ravana and you are Mother Earth, right? Why fight against each other? Oh. Narayana.